Let's do our intros. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. What's going on? I'm listening. I see you that you're here. Yeah, so hopefully I listened to a little bit of my last video and I didn't know it was that staticky. So if you guys are hearing a bunch of static, let me know for future, in future reference, just let me know so that I can unplug my phone from the jack. That's probably why it's having that static, but hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, so hopefully you guys watch the links. Once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on your way in. Um, so this is a kind of a remix to the quote. As I said in the description, this is kind of a remix to the quote, "The general is always fighting the last war." And so we have Adrian Lawrence, graduated from George Washington University with a law degree, so a JD. Um, and what makes her interesting on TYT, by the way, she quit ESPN, hit them with a sexual harassment charge years ago. And what I found interesting is when John, you know, essentially when he was speaking about, men being single. This is another, by the way, this is another episode of ha ha ha, y'all are single towards men, right? Um, you should be kissing women's rear end, don't you know? Because everything about you is wrong, of course, unless a woman says it's not wrong, then you're all right. But so John sets up the situation, and of course, a black woman here to rip men to shreds and tell men how you're immature and you can't use force to keep your thumb on women anymore and such and so forth, etc., etc., all the feminist talking points. Crap. Okay, cool. um so it's as if we don't have the report from Morgan Stanley that said by 2030 45% of women are going to be single and childless. It's as if we don't have that report, and that report's been out since what, 2017, 2018, or something like that, right? It's as if we don't have that. So once again, another episode of I'm infallible, or women are infallible in relation to men, right? And what's interesting is, once again, this is a black woman, Miss Lawrence, right? Miss Adrian Lawrence, ripping men to shred. What's getting real interesting? Watching black women expand out from just trying to mammy black men to now trying to mammy all men, right? And I guess it's interesting because if she was working for ESPN and she probably was around a bunch of athletes and she got to see how athletes with money act. And so I would estimate there's some resentment there, right? I would estimate there's some resentment there. Miss Adrian, you mad you ain't get chose? Huh? You mad you ain't one of these dudes' wives? Huh, Miss Adrian? You know what's interesting for a person who's you graduated George Washington University with a law degree, and look how how your brain turns to mush once we start talking man-woman stuff, right? Excuse me, train tracks, right? I find that fascinating. I'm always gonna bring that up because I continue to find it fascinating. Intelligent, educated people, men, women, but in this case we're talking about a woman, right? And I will go in on John in a minute. Educated, went to good schools, a whole lawyer out here, worked for ESPN, now does her own thing and also works for TYT. And yet once we start talking about men-women issues, whatever trauma you got going on in your life, you just can't help but just spew it out, right? And what's interesting is John, and I'm not a Jordan Peterson fan. I actually don't like Jordan Peterson, to be honest with y'all. But it's interesting to watch John say that, you know, these INCELSs, they understand the problem, but you know, they have all the wrong solutions and they're not nuanced. And the second he passes the mic to Miss Lawrence, I don't hear no nuance from her. It's all men ain't ish type language. So let me get this right, John. You use the word nuance. You pass the mic to Miss Adrian, and it's nothing but men ain't ish language. Yeah, because that's nuanced, right? And then you wonder why the left, the Democrats in particular, are shedding straight men. Shedding straight men. Because all the left has for straight men is Miss Adrian. It's shaming or trying to appeal to us sexually. That's all the left got. The left has been defecating on straight men for so long, they don't even know how to appeal to them. They don't even know how to understand their plight. Right? Miss Adrian came out the gate swinging axes, swinging swords on some feminist kick. Right? This is a whole lawyer. You graduated from George Washington University with your JD. You come out and then you come out the gate. When we talk about men being single, you come out the gate on some, yeah, because nobody wants that. We want a dominant man, but we don't want a man that dominates us. Nobody wants that. Sound like a whole white feminist. I seen your Instagram page. I see why you sound like that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Alexa, how many of these women are going to be single with childless by 2030? 45%. Why this annoys me, I continue to, say this to my subscribers over and over again. Because these are not dumb, uneducated women. All of these women, I keep on mentioning their names. Y'all notice I don't go after the dummies. I don't go after the uneducated. Well, some of them might be, they might not have gone to college or whatever. But I don't go after the dummies. These tend to be accomplished women. They're articulate. They're well spoken. Even the ones that we don't see and they on their YouTube or whatever social media, you could tell by the way they speak. These are not unintelligent women. And oftentimes, not only are they intelligent, they're educated. But all of that go to crap once we start talking about men, women. Right? Once we start talking men, women, now we dealing with somebody that's stuck in whatever trauma situation they've had since they were children. And then the smug on Adrian's face. Oh, the smug. It wasn't just the words. Isn't it what women say? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. The smug on her face as she lectured down to men. Oh, the Democrats. Oh, yeah, I love I'm going to start love watching y'all get a shellacking every single election. Oh, because y'all keep on letting people like this talk. And men are supposed to just eat that, right? John had the nerve to say nuance and then watch Adrian come out the gate just battle axe. As if women are infallible in relationship. Women are infallible in dating. Women are infallible, at least in relation to men, to straight men. And then John come out his mouth. Oh, well, I'm doing this for y'all. Well, he said something along the like, I'm married. Placater in chief. All these placating men. You want to know why women be single as a loose leaf paper? Because all of you placating men always lie to them about men. Or there's more single men than there are women. There's some reasons for that. More women are engaging in same-sex relationships, and more women are sharing dudes. That part. Less men are partnering than women, yeah, because more women are partnering with other women. And the reason why I sound like this is because Adrian and John are both not dumb. And they're not young. They're not immature. This thing is ridiculous. Y'all are gonna watch America get torn to shreds off of class and gender. Watch it. Y'all want to keep on playing the culture war amongst men and women? And you know what your men are going to do? Don't worry, Adrian. Men are not going to come out here and be physically violent, not in any great number. You want to know what they're going to do? Worse. Be apathetic. Be indifferent. Sit on their hands. That's what they're going to do. For you and John to go on TYT, isn't TYT the highest rated like news network on the internet? Something like that? At least at one point they were. Right? For y'all to go on TYT or Damage Report, which is like a kind of offshoot of TYT, and use this as a way to lecture down and talk down to men. Whenever I hear this, it's always interesting because it's as if women don't understand, and other men like John, the placaters, don't understand that you know that most women are straight, right? And so when you do these type of things and you demoralize men, you do realize that this comes back and bite women in the rear end. Exhibit A, college. Yay, more women are going to college than men. Oh crap, women like tend to date and marry up. Oh crap, what's going to happen with all the college educated women that's not going to have men on their air quotes level? You see what happens when you have a myopic worldview, John and Adrian? Once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. This thing is ridiculous. And when I say fighting the last war, y'all don't even realize the ship is turning. More and more scholars are like, yo, we got to do something about the men. This is not looking good. We have systems working for the women, and we're leaving the boys and the men out here in the wilderness. We can't afford that. If we're trying to compete against Western Europe, we're trying to compete against China. We can't afford to just let our sons wither on the vine and die. The benign neglect on black boys and men specifically, it's hurting us. But y'all so busy fighting the war from 15 and 20 years ago, the gender war from back then, Adrian talking like we somewhere in the 1960s or something. Y'all use violence and domination and dominant. What type of weird feminist crap you talking in 2022 in this late date? You're a whole lawyer. You're a whole, from George Washington University. You done lived in Cali, you done lived in New York, you done lived in DC. You're a whole lawyer, lady. You don't feel embarrassed with that smug look on your face? I'm saying this now. These people's daughters are going to be, because they're still keeping a stiff upper lip right now. They're still playing stoic right now. Oh, because we're still in our 20s and 30s as millennials for the most part. Yes, the oldest of millennials are early 40s. They still think they got hope. They think they have hope. When so many of y'all find yourselves Vivica A. Fox, don't say nobody warned you. Because it sounds funny to laugh at men now. Right? It sounds funny to lecture them. Ha ha, you're single because you're immature. Ha ha. You're single because you want to be these patriarchal white men, the same type of patriarchal white men I secretly really want to marry. Oops. It sounds funny now. You get your 5 chuckles in now. We'll see what this looks like in another decade. Right? We got a whole lawyer, and it reminds me, and I don't want to butcher it too much, of what a video Dr. T put out a little while ago, essentially of like, how do educated black women say men ain't ish? How do they say it? They're not going to say it in hood vernacular. They're not. So how do educated women say men ain't ish? Exhibit A, Adrienne Lawrence. We need to get out of this mindset, like educated people, well-to-do people, busy people, accomplished people, that they don't do petty things too. That they don't do things to snub people, that they don't have old traumas that they're holding on to. That whenever they get a chance, they kind of blurt it out there, or they do something to get at those people. As I said, Miss Adrienne left ESPN because, according to her, she was being SA'd. Right? And she sued them apparently. Right? A whole lawyer. In the second John passed her the mic, the first thing out her mouth was essentially, these men ain't ish. Ha 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 ha. Man dark laugh. Ha 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 ha. Okay. Sounds nice. Right? So, for all you ladies who from about 16 all the way up to 70, right? All through high school, college years, post-college, when you're going to grad school, med school, whatever, law school, whatever you're going to, whether you're at work or not, I see so many of you recording yourselves crying. Y'all lonely. Y'all realizing, like I said, the Latina woman in her 40s, realizing she don't got nobody except for her parents and her siblings. The light-skinned girl that's crying with the braids, and she crying because nobody tells her they love her. But, all of these women, the girl coming from the club, mad no dude tried to speak to her. Whenever just look at women like Adrienne. Just look at women like Adrienne, because women like Adrienne is saying, y'all got it together. Y'all don't want men like us anyway. Right? Because we have a warped view of masculinity and all type of stuff. Adrienne said, y'all got it. Y'all don't need us. Y'all needed us back in the day because y'all would starve without us, but now y'all don't need us. Y'all straight, right? What Cameron said, niggas get shot every day. You'll be all right, right? Y'all will be all right. Go eat the box. Women like Adrian said, y'all gonna be all right. Y'all gonna be all right. And no, she didn't literally say that, but yeah, she said that. That was the sentiment, right? I'm saying it. Most men are not incels. Not in no group form. Not with the particular ideology that some of those guys have. And even those INCLSs, they're more likely to take themselves out than anyone else. But what men are gonna do, more and more men are just gonna sit on their hands. And we're going to watch you women fight for the top 20%. And we're gonna be passing each other popcorn. While y'all cat fight for all those dudes that you keep on saying, those patriarchal, elitist, racist white men that y'all fight for. So John's been with TYT for a while now, right? Yeah, John's been with TYT for a while now. Adrian, she's been on there for a good few years now. Was it a few years now, right? Like I said, she left ESPN. She had issues there, right? Supposedly she was S8 or the constant S8 that she sued about. I'm not even, I'm not gonna get into that. But you're here now, ma'am. Like I said, all these educated people, but they can't help but snub men, laugh at men, joke at men's expense every chance they get. When I told y'all they feel like they fighting a cosmic war, this is cosmic get back, cosmic retribution. Y'all thought I was joking. I'm not joking. Listen to how she was speaking like we were somewhere in the 1960s or something. Most men aren't trying to harken back to some 1960s, not even 60s, 1950s. Leave it to Beaver. Get in the kitchen and cook me something and shut up. Most men are not trying to do, especially not most black men. We don't even know what that looked like. Wait, a woman that doesn't talk back? We don't even know what that looked like. We heard about it before. We don't know what that looked like. Right? Sounds like an urban legend to most black men. Wait, a woman that cooks and makes you a sandwich after sex and don't talk back? What? And yet you talking like that's what men's real issue is. They just want to oppress us again and da 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 da. Y'all are weird. You're a whole JD having woman. You worked for ESPN. You are accomplished and you're in your early 30s. You're not no 50-something-year-old woman. You're in your early 30s. Or maybe your mid 30s now. You sounded like some 60-year-old scarred woman. Boy, the left done hopped y'all up so much. Now y'all waving y'all finger at all men, not just black men anymore. Right? Y'all are weird. This is why people are starting to kind of defecate on credentialism more and more. Because we're putting our microphones to the faces of more and more of you accomplished people. And like outside of your specific field, when we speak to you, all of that stuff go to crap. Look how you were speaking about half the goddamn American population. Outside of the placating Johns of them. Y'all don't even know how to, let me get this right. The reason why so many of these men, if not all of them, are single is because they want to be oppressive. Because they're hearkening back to some old-timey masculinity. Because they want to keep their thumbs, they want to hurt women. These are your sentiments, Miss Adrian. Those are, at least those are the type of sentiments you were expressing. And then John, old out of touch ass, just clapping it up for her like we in the, you know, all the talk shows back in the 90s where they'll bring up some woman and the woman just spews out some misandrous stuff and the white dudes in the audience clapping it up. Leave the man-woman stuff for other people, John. Married or not, clearly this is not your lane. D. Scott says, y'all better alpha y'all way through this recession, Negroes. Mr. Z and everyone else. Man, look. People like John are going to be all right. People like Adrian are going to be all right. But all the women that listen to people like Adrian and John, not so much. And you know where Adrian and John are going to be when these women are single as hell, living with their parents into their freaking 40s? No man or missed the opportunity with an okay man because they listen to women like Adrian. Pretty much tell them, all these men that are single, the reason they're single is because they want to be oppressive. Ain't nobody trying to deal with that. I want somebody that's dominant. When you hear a woman say, I want somebody that's dominant, but that doesn't try to dominate me, translation, I want somebody to go out in the world, take heads off, conquer, rape, pillage, and then come back home and kiss my rear end. Right? Defecate on everybody outside, but come back home and treat me like a little princess. Because remember, I'm infallible, at least in relation to you, that is. Y'all are the worst. These are the type of black women they keep on putting microphones in front of. Black women like this. Accomplished or not. And that, I'm a little disappointed in myself for being disappointed in her. Right? Because when you see a sister, you like, okay, she got her degree, okay, she doing her thing, she young, all right. I know you got a little issue with ESPN, but okay, right? And then we ask her about man, women stuff. These niggas ain't shit, right? They sound sane as hell until you start talking about men. If we talking about law, it's one thing. We talking about politics, it's one thing. Yeah, you might disagree with them, but you don't think they're insane. But once we start talking about man-women relations, what? What did you say? Right? And then the left continues to pretend that they don't see this. No, the issue is our sons are sexist monsters and they want to go back to the 1950s, but our daughters are perfectly innocent. There's nothing wrong with them. The problem is our sons are immature and they want our daughters to take care of them and they want to go back to some 1950s and you know, shut up and be barefoot and pregnant and make me a sandwich. Right? Shout out to Charles Faulkner Jr. says, Mr. Z, tell those women to alpha their way through to a relationship. I'm saying. Y'all been on this kind of shaming men with this relationship stuff since this kind of data been coming out for the past, what, 5 or so years, everyone? Maybe even a little bit less than that, since we've been getting hit really hard with all of this. Yo, these millennials single as hell. Y'all been trying. Let's give it another 5 years, because y'all still shaming, y'all still talking crap. Let's see if y'all still talking crap in another 5 years when your oldest of daughters are in their mid 40s, 46 years old, still no kids and not married. Huh? When the median age of millennials is somewhere around 32, 33, and a good chunk of your daughters have no kids and never been married. And I'm not talking about the ones that are engaging in same-sex relationships or keep on telling you, oh, I don't want to get married. No, I'm talking about the ones that may be telling you that, but they really want to be married, and the ones that really want to be married and they're not even lying about it. But they've been listening to women like Adrian for the better part of 4 decades. They've been being placated and ego stroked to death by men like John. Just another Derek Jackson, a white Derek Jackson when it comes to talking men, women. What's the point of having, I keep on asking, what is the point of having black accomplished people that move like white people, that talk like white people, that yeah, okay, I advocate for black people until you press that button. So if the button is class, or if the button is gender, or if the button is whatever, right, sexuality, they're not advocating for black people no more. Because I guarantee you, Adrian feel like, no, I talk up for black people, and I have seen her do that on TYT. But once we start talking about men stuff, oh, all of that go out the window. Unless you didn't have the ovaries to say you were specifically talking about white men, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I wonder how much of that energy you were channeling because you really pissed off about that ESPN situation. Right? Yes, I'm worked up, everyone. I have no problem admitting it. And that clip is 2 months old. It's 2 months old. And the reason why, for those of you that saw the link, I posted BGS recent, and I think BGS only, how long is that clip that he had up? Like, what is it, a couple minutes? Right? If even, the reason why I posted BGS's clip is to say, look, we're getting some progress. Richard Reeves is referencing Dr. Tommy Curry. But the Adrians of the world and the Johns of the world are still fighting the last war. For all my army and military, vets, and they know what I mean by the generals always fighting the last war. They still fight in the last war, the 90s and the early aughts war. They don't see the ship, they don't see the slow changing of the ship changing directions. They don't see it. They don't see the change in direction. Yet super slow. As a matter of fact, it's barely changing directions yet. What's the thing on the ship called? The rudder? The rudder just started turning. They don't see it. They don't feel it. They don't. And maybe because we're in the cutting edge of this conversation, we know, right? And we're aware of what it means And we're aware of social ramifications of these type of things. We're not so busy trying to snub women, like, to the point where we don't understand what that would mean for us as men. Adrian had the biggest smug look on her face as she lectured down to men about what she thinks the reason why so many men are single. You're a whole JD, George Washington University. This ain't no little nobody BFE college from Nowhereville. You went from coast to coast to be educated. You worked for one of the most well-known organizations on the planet, ESPN. Now you work for arguably the most viewed internet news network on the planet. Definitely in America, right? Definitely in America, right? And you sound like this. And John is enabling you. One of the dangers that we rarely, if ever, speak about is how people like Adrian and John hurt women because they send women out here with messed up beliefs about how the vast majority of men think and feel about when women sound like Adrian. Because John is kind of clapping it up for her and encouraging her, I would argue more than what should be women actually think that a good man, air quotes, a good man thinks like John. White, black, Asian, or Latino. How many men think like John? Yeah, you're right. The reason why because they do. Yeah, the problem is they want to be oppressive, and they have a messed up view of masculinity, and da da da. And at the end he says, well, I don't care. I'm trying to do good for y'all. I'm married. Right? Y'all are the worst. This is an accomplished, educated, intelligent black woman. I watched John when he first got on the TYT. I remember when John first got on the TYT, and he's one of the few that that got on around the same time that he did, and he stuck it out. Right? What's the name of the other one that used to be on TYT, and now he has this whole other conservative thing going on? I want to say Crowder. It's not Crowder. It's not Crowder. It's the other one. It's the LGBTQ one. The one that Ben Shapiro said he would not go to his wedding. God, what is his name? Y'all know who I'm talking about. Rupert? Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin. That's who I'm talking about. Dave Rubin. John is who Dave Rubin wanted to be on TYT. John has become what Dave Rubin thought he was going to be on TYT. Right? And yet, we're here. John placating. If John's a man and been around other men, he know what age he know like the majority of men do not agree with nothing Adrian was saying. We might be quiet about it when she says it. Right? We know depending on the different, company you have, you might not challenge her directly. But John, you didn't give no pushback. You clapped it up. You agreed. Hey, and this is why so many women are delusional. They're delusional from mainstream entertainment media. They're delusional because of news media. They're delusional because of all the type of things they're consuming on social media. And then the fact that their friends and family members are placating them and ego stroking them. And then they got to come out here in the real world and date real men. So you go from being daddy's princess to infallible when it comes to your mothers, speaking to you about men, your father speaking to you about men and boys, and then you got to come out here and actually date men and get into the muck of maybe sometimes you wrong, and maybe sometimes you're mean, and maybe sometimes you're rude, and maybe sometimes that sass isn't warranted, Adrian, and maybe sometimes that smug isn't warranted, Adrian. And maybe sometimes you need to let that trauma go when you're talking about certain issues on a big internet news show like TYT. Adrian. So I'm not going to belabor the point too much, you guys. I'm worked up. Yeah, it's 2 months old. Yeah, I'm late. Right? But for us to be facing down depression level recession, you know, and we know what this is going to look like for a lot of working class women. We're not talking about the Adrians of the world. Adrian, she's slim. She don't really got no butt. She's kind of tall. She's 5'8". One of these white dudes will wife her up. She's gonna be all right, and she's accomplished. She's gonna be all right. But all her other sistren, them working class women, oh, that listen to women like her, oh. Rest in peace, Kevin. Look, I get it, right? SBE, shame, blame, and explain. I get it. Brothers, there's certain brothers that hate that. But when Kevin says winter is coming and everybody's like, y'all always trying to scare women, right? I understand the brothers that are tired of hearing this kind of scare tactic, and even other sisters that are tired of hearing this, what they perceive as scare tactic. But understand how thin the line between you making it day by day is. Remember, we already know 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And if 45% of women are single and childless, and then 80% of that are living paycheck to paycheck, it's not looking good. So when we say winter is coming, it's not a threat. It's not a scare tactic. It's you realize you only one real social or economic situation away from being on your ass. And the fact that it's only you and whatever income you got, you really gonna be on your ass. And then you got women like Adrian and men like John on the other end, acting like everything gonna be all right. Charles says women like her will have to pay the white man. Nah, I don't think. I think, yeah, that kind of circle she roll with, she gonna be all right. She's gonna be all right, Charles. She's gonna be all right. It's the other women that watch, black women in particular, some Latinas, but black women in particular, that watch people like women like Adrian and then think you could be her, and you a regular sister making your 35, 40, $45,000 a year, thinking you could listen to her. Charles said, nah. Charles said, nah, Z, nah. She not. She paying. Right? That's the thing. And look, man, I'm black. I'm part of the black community. I live amongst black people. these people are, they send these women out with delusions, and they chastise the men, the same men that could at least throw a buoy out there to save them. You may not have a whole boat, you may not have a yacht, you might have a fishing boat or a pontoon, or you might just have a buoy, but something. No, these women are gonna drown listening to women like Adrian and listening to men like John. Right? Indigo Flow says, Noah, God is going to flood the earth. People, stop trying to scare us. Man. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, y'all. Look, I'm, you know, y'all see when I usually get on, I don't really try to do the whole hollering thing. And it's early morning. Y'all listen to Mr. Z rage out. I'm coming off of work. Y'all going to work. But I watched this thing yesterday and I was like, oh yeah, this gotta be a stream. This gotta be a stream because I was damn near talking to myself about this stuff earlier. I'm like, how the hell, like, you're part of a news network, lady. John, you're on TY. This is what y'all do, John. You research news, John. Y'all over here think it's gonna be smart for all these women to be single? Y'all, wait, y'all not drawing the through lines? You think it's gonna be okay for all these women to be single? Because y'all living kind of semi-cushy over there in California. At least for what y'all do. Right? Y'all got a little bit of connections. Y'all got a little bit of money, you know. But for the rest of us, working class, regular people, we don't want to see our neighbors starving to death. We don't want to see our neighbor daughter out here selling the box because she was listening to women like Adrian. She thought she could be Adrian and got caught up. Y'all go ahead and moderators, get that person out of here, please. Right? Thank you, Indigo. I'm gonna try to do something light for the next video because I'll find something, or if something pop up on my feed or whatever, because like I said, I'm not gonna try to do the rage porn all the time, but this right here and for some, like I said, it annoyed me because, you know, I knew a little bit about Adrian's background because, you know, I am subscribed to TYT, not so much for the commentary as much as for the kind of news that they cover sometimes that mainstream don't cover. That's another reason why I'm subscribed to Breaking Points. I'm still subscribed to The Hill because I like kind of that off news. I even watch Ben Shapiro occasionally because I like when they cover things that like mainstream MSNBC, Fox, and you know, CNN don't cover, right? So that's why I'm subscribed to like a bunch of those little new Vox and all that other stuff, right? There's a white dude I'm thinking about. I can't remember his name, but he does like these kind of mini docs and whatever. Yeah. I'm subscribed to a bunch of that different type of stuff. Right? But this is ridiculous. And the thing is, and I'm saying this because I know I don't do the whole I could read into the future crystal ball thing, but I'm about to do that right now. I know how this is gonna look in 20 years. It ain't gonna look good. And I'm calling it now. Because we're still we're still young enough where I could call it and hopefully live long enough to see it and be like, well, I told you so. And it's not that Mr. Z is going to get off on saying I told you so. It's that these people need to see, because one of my biggest gripes, right, is when people set something in motion and then they pass before they get to see how bad their idea was. Right? When they implement things and it falls apart, but they're already gone, so they didn't get to see how bad their idea was. There's so many politicians that are in that camp, right? So I'm calling it now, Miss Adrian, Mr. John. Y'all talking like this? It sounds funny. Like I said, the smug on Adrian's face, right? Longo, you already know I was thinking Reagan. You know I didn't mention him because I really wanted to say something really, really mean, and I swallowed it. Because I was gonna say, I was gonna, I'm not even gonna say it, but I was gonna say something really messed up, and I swallowed it. That's why I didn't mention Reagan, right? But yes, that was the first person that came to my mind when I was saying what I was saying, right? And I want to say that, like I said, me and Charles having a back and forth with that, but I think Adrian's gonna be okay. I think she's gonna be okay, right? But it's other women and people, people in general, but other women that think like her, but that are working class or watch women like her and they aha and clapping it up for her, but their life is not nowhere near where she is. They're not nearly as accomplished as she is. And they're about to feel this pain of not partnering up with a regular dude because you think of dudes, regular dudes, the way Adrian is speaking about men. And that, as a matter of fact, that's kind of what has happened with a lot of this kind of weird feminist movement is, some of these kind of second wave feminist founders, they married. They married. Some of them stayed married. They partnered up with men. They had children, right? But they sent women out. They sent all these other women out with all of these messed up ideas and notions about men, and these women ended up miserable. 1 or 2, 3 baby daddies, married once, twice, divorced twice, right? Married once, divorced, and then stayed pretty much single for 30 years. We all got that aunt. We all got that girl cousin, right? Listening to Adrian's foremothers. You ask half of these women what they got to. At least extra women and boomer women had children. Yeah, everything else might have failed. And yes, they might have messed those kids up psychologically and emotionally. But at least they had children. At least they had children and they got to experience some type of real love in their life. How many millennials could say that? Even the oldest of us. And y'all listen to women like Adrian. It ain't looking good, y'all. It ain't looking good. So I'll truly pause right there. You know, like, share, subscribe. And whole JD, y'all. George Washington University. Went from Cali to New York. Accomplished woman. Worked for ESPN, now works for TYT, and I think she has other endeavors and stuff. And you know, you tends to be on the calmer side. She didn't sound any type of irate. I just did, but she didn't sound like irate when she was speaking earlier. You know, but once you start talking about men, women in relationships, what happens? She she sounds like she did, and that, y'all, is the power of resentment, of anger, of rage, of whatever you want to call it, right? That's, yeah, it's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. I hey, if you're educated and once we hit that button, you sound like this. And for those of you that I don't know how many of y'all saw the first link. I think it was the first link that I put in the description. You'll see what I'm speaking about. Y'all will know what I'm speaking about. And that's unfortunate because as you get once John pretty much passed her the mic, what did she say? In her own polysyllabic way, in her own way, and that goes back to what and my apologies to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson if he didn't mean it the way I'm saying it, but it reminds me of what Dr. T. Hassan Johnson said, which is, how do these type of women say men ain't ish? And we got to see it from Adrian. And that's why, I do this often when I say, yeah, you didn't use those words, but that's the sentiment, right? When I have, back and forth with different people in real life, and they try to hide behind euphemisms, excuse me, and they try to hide behind, air quotes, proper language, and you know, and they're not particularly crass. I'm like, yeah, you didn't use these particular words, but that's the sentiment, right? So the sentiment is these men ain't ish, but that's not the words that Adrian used. And she didn't have to, right? Because John set it up real nice for her with how he framed this, right? And it came down to the men are the problem, the women are responding. I don't know how much of that we can continue to spew out into the world before the consequences. And I think the consequences have already shown themselves. And these people continue to speak the way they do. And that's why I titled the video what I titled it. TYT still fighting the last war. TYT still fighting the last war. You would think a supposed progressive organization would be up on game and understand how this is not a good look. Right? Even when we're talking about relationships, it's not a good look to stick your thumb in the eye of your subscribers. And I would put money. I put money the majority of TYT subscribers are men. I put money at least it's a 55-45 split. I put money. I'll put 100 on it. I put 100 on it. It's more men watching TYT than women, and you put your thumb in those people's eye. And I'm almost certain it's more men watching Damage Report than women. And you put your thumb on those people in those people's eye. Right? I don't fault her for giving her opinion. I just think her opinion sucks. She, John talks about the word, uses the word, excuse me. John uses the word nuanced What part of what Adrian said sounded any type of nuance, right? None of what said sounded any type of nuanced. Nothing about the environment, nothing about, how we're getting into our own echo chambers, nothing about that. They went straight to the INCELSs, right? I need Toya, should I say INCELSs or INCELS and just spell it out? I'm just gonna spell it out and say INCELS, right? We need to get our resident grammar Nazi out for this, right? But yeah, like none of that. There was no nuance. It was just straight attack mode. And it reminded me of the white woman from a few months ago, that had the video snarling in the camera, pretty much celebrating that so many men are reporting that they feel lonely. And she was pretty much getting her 5 chuckles in on it. And now we got TYT essentially doing the same thing. And John saying, "Oh, y'all, y'all can see the problem accurately, but solutions." And Adrian got into that whole emotionally intelligent type of crap. Oh, why do women continue to hide behind this language? Y'all are not the arbiters of what emotionally intelligent is. So now we go into the intangible because it can't be measured. So I'll just say I'm more emotionally intelligent than you. And the problem is that you're not emotionally intelligent and you don't know how to read a room and you don't know all the stuff that can't actually be measured. That way we can't actually say, you know what? Yeah, that what I said was wrong because I can measure it and I can see actually this person is better at it than I am, or this person is doing pretty damn well. So we're just gonna start now. We're just listing out a bunch of things that can never be measured. So I'll pause right there. Truly, you guys. Thanks for being here with me this morning. Mr. Z's morning rant. Um, yeah, I like I said, I was really worked up when I saw that video. Um, Indigo Flow says unquantifiable. Exactly, exactly. Right. And this is coming once again. I'm stressing this. This is coming from an educated black woman. George Washington University, y'all. Not no little pay here, buy here type of college and BFE, right? This is not one of those get your master's degree in 3 months type of colleges. And yet, after John says nuanced, after he says nuanced, he passes the mic to Adrian and she sounds like. The problem with these men is. Alrighty then. I mean, what can you do with that? What can you even do with that? You know? So I'll pause right there, y'all, for real. Yeah, y'all, look. The general is always fighting the last war. Where For millennials and for older Gen Z, we're already gonna. The boomers are out of here. They're like BJS said. They're pretty much out of the dating game. There's a couple of stragglers, but but for younger Xers, Gen Z and excuse me, younger Xers, millennials, and Gen Z women, it's gonna be difficult for them because as the ship slowly turns and the system realizes we're letting way too many of our men go to waste. They're sitting on their hands. They're not really contributing the way they could. And this is essentially them practicing a protest vote. They do not trust the system because these women grew up with the system kissing their rear end. It's gonna be really hard for them to adjust to a world where we actually, at the least, placate enough men to keep this system going. We may not do right by men necessarily, but we're gonna help a few more along the way because we need them at least to be really good cogs in the system, right? And as that happens, you're gonna watch as men, as women don't really know what to do with themselves. Women like Adrian. Because they took for granted everything that's happened over the past 40, 50 years. They took for granted the sexism directed towards men, black men specifically. Even though the math isn't mathing. You can't have 80% of women and 20% of men hold up the sky. More like 60% of women and 20% of men hold up the sky. And that's what these people are realizing. That's, I would argue, that's what the Richard Reeves and the Andrew Yangs, right? And the Scott Galloways, that's what they're realizing. Only having no top 1/5 of men and a sizable portion of women hold up the sky, maybe even a third of men, let's say, and a sizable portion of women hold up the sky. In the long run, it doesn't work. And for those of you that watched that clip, what you saw was Adrian talking down to men, not even addressing really the article, really. Essentially saying y'all are lonely because y'all ain't ish. If we're gonna call a thing, John and Adrian pretty much said y'all are lonely because y'all ain't ish. Or not even lonely. Y'all are single because y'all ain't ish. Not what's going on in the environment, not people are getting into their echo chambers, not any type of they could have been nuanced like John said. He used the word and then they descended into something different. Right? And these are the people that we give microphones to. And that's unfortunate. Right? But hey, that's why I titled the video what I titled it. So I said I'll truly pause here like 3 times already. And I'm not trying to make this a 2.5 hour stream like I did the last time I said that. Y'all really had me here for like damn near 3 hours. So I will actually truly pause right here. Y'all have a rest of, a good rest of y'all day. Um, for those of you that didn't see the links, click them. Like BGS said, we are making headway, um, and we really need to push for policy outside of the women. Policy. This is a time when all the political heads, people that took political science in college, our lawyers, our attorneys, our professors, these are the type of people. This is when we need them to come to the forefront, right? Those brothers that have some good ideas about what would help to bring about productive young black men, young boys that turn into black men, right? This is policy time. But I really wanted to highlight today why the Adrians also matter, why the Johns also matter, because of the narrative that they put out there and they promote. That the reason is that men aren't turning up the right way and all of this foolishness. They don't talk hypergamy. They don't talk about any of that. Scott Galloway had the balls to say it on Bill Maher. We don't like to say this on the left. And then he went into his conversation. He had the balls to say it on Bill Maher. And Bill Maher is a very heavily watched cable, kind of funny commentary thing, right, on HBO. And he had the balls to say it. Women practice hypergamy. He didn't say the word hypergamy, but that was the sentiment. But Adrian and John, nah. Oh well. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of y'all day. Y'all ain't gonna keep me here forever. I know GCB like, ooh, good, good. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out. I'll pause right there.